Morning. There we go. Welcome to Oshkosh. Who just got in? Oh, we got everybody all here all week? Good. Who flew in? Flew the Airstream in. That's pretty good. It's good performance out of that. Welcome to ForeFlight Power Users. This is our advanced course inside of ForeFlight. Hopefully you guys have been able to take advantage of some of our other courses throughout the week. We've got our fundamentals and we've got 2 What's New courses. It's been 2 years since we've been at Oshkosh. That's 24 releases of ForeFlight, over 100 new features to take a look at as we go through. So many, we made 2 different What's New courses this year. We've got a couple of the fundamentals later tomorrow, and one of the What's News tomorrow as well. And we're doing another What's New this afternoon, actually. But if you want to see all of those new features, Hangar C, just past the universities down there, come check it out. We can give you a demo and a tour of all of the new stuff that ForeFlight has to offer. There's so many great features. My name is Thomas Darty. I am the logbook product manager in there, so I deal with all of your logbooks and track logs and checklists in there. If you don't get anything else out of this presentation, this slide right there is the most valuable thing for you. Team@foreflight.com. That is our pilot support team. They are all pilots. They are all ForeFlight experts. You can reach them 7 days a week, team@foreflight.com. They will reach out. They will give you, help you with your account, tell you how to use different things inside of ForeFlight. Very handy. The thing I like about them all being pilots is you don't need to know what you want to do inside of ForeFlight. Tell them what you want to do in the airplane. They've been there, they're flying around using the same software. They can give you tips, tricks, tools, things that you can use inside of that plane while you're flying around in ForeFlight. Makes it a lot easier than having to know what exactly you want to ask for. And we brought a lot of them with us here. We're over in Hangar C, like I said, just past the universities there, right in the middle of the hangar. Big old booth. It'll be the one with a lot of people in it over there. So come by, get your questions answered, see demos and tours of what's new inside of ForeFlight. We got a little bit of an advanced build over there to show you guys. A couple of things that aren't quite released yet. So those would be some fun ones to go see what's new, what's really new. Question we get a lot is, what is the latest version of ForeFlight? We're going to be using tools that are in that most recent release. So the latest version of ForeFlight is ForeFlight 13.5. 13.5. And these are the devices that you can run that on. So you can have a fairly old device and still be able to get up to that latest version of ForeFlight. If you have a device older than that, though, it's time to go find yourself a new iPad. Luckily, we've got foreflight.com/buying guide. We've got the same document over in the hangar with us, and that'll walk you through exactly what you want as the minimum spec to run ForeFlight on a device. And to get that latest version of ForeFlight, you can download that from the Apple App Store on any of your iOS devices. You can just search for ForeFlight Mobile, EFB, and that will go ahead and download that latest version for you. You can update to 13.5. So for our power users today, I wanted to go through 5 scenarios that we might find ourselves in the airplane and look at a couple of tools that we can use inside of ForeFlight to make those common scenarios easier and safer for us so we can relax and enjoy flying airplanes. That's why we all got into this, was to enjoy flying around in an airplane. So let's look at how ForeFlight can help me out through a couple of those scenarios. One thing is, I am going to have ADS-B brought into my aircraft, using a lot of that in flight. So, because we're ForeFlight, I'm going to be using our portable ADS-B in receiver called Sentry here. We can have those to buy at a 5% discount over in Hangar C. And that's going to bring in things like an AHRS chip that allows me to see my pitch and bank while I'm looking at synthetic vision, and in-flight traffic and weather. Great things to bring inside the cockpit with you, especially at a discount. So the first situation that I want to take a look at is flying in and out of unfamiliar airports. We're going to look at, I think we've all done this. We're going to fly somewhere new. I'm going to fly in a region I'm maybe less familiar with, at an airport that maybe has procedures, maybe has taxiways that I'm not quite as familiar with. And ForeFlight can go a long way to letting me kind of understand what I'm going to get into before we walk out to the airplane and make sure that I'm safe and relaxed while I'm flying. So we're going to fly from Aspen down to Colorado Springs in there. There's a little bit of terrain. There's a little bit of procedures in my way there. So I want to go ahead and understand everything about that route before we go out to the airplane. First thing I'm going to do is tap on my departure airport out of Aspen. And we now have our new flight drawer, our new airport details drawer, slide in from the right-hand side of the map there. If you've been using ForeFlight for a while, this used to be what happened when you pressed and held on the map. You'd get a little pop-up right there on the map. Problem with that is occasionally it would cover what you pressed and held on, what you were trying to look at details for. So by moving all of this information over to the right-hand side, I can still pan and zoom around the map, and I don't cover up what I was trying to look at. I'm a big fan of this. We're going to look at some of the ways that this can help us in other situations by decoupling that from the single point on the map. And I'm going to tap the weather tab in that airport details. And this is where I can see things like the METAR or the TAF, my normal weather forecasts. But down along the bottom here, there we go, I got a pretty high density altitude. We're over 10,000 feet flying out of Aspen in the density altitude. My airplane probably not going to be able to handle that super well. If I'm flying something smaller, maybe a 172 out of here, 10,000 feet, I don't normally climb above 10,000 feet, so I'm probably not going to be able to take off out of this airport and have any kind of climb rate. So I need to do something about that. I need to find a density altitude that's going to be a little bit better for us. So I'm going to slide along the top there where we were looking at the TAF and the METAR over to daily. This is our new daily weather forecasts. This is a forecast product from the weather company, an IBM product in there, that we've then interpreted into pilot speak for any point on the globe. I can actually look up weather anywhere in the world using this new daily weather forecast. But when I tap on it, I get a whole view, 10 days out, and again, interpreted into aviation lingo that I'm going to want here. Along the bottom, I have a row here that shows me the flight category and conditions along that 10 days. So I can see I've got a lot of VFR, but I've got some MVFR coming in as well. I'm going to want to avoid those MVFR days, especially if I've got terrain or anything like that. I really don't want to not be able to see mountains along. But along the very top there, for any hour that I want to choose, I can see my density altitude calculated using that forecast. So I can see, in the mornings, I've got obviously a little bit lower density altitude. So I can pan and zoom around, like I can go through all of my days here, and I can find a time that's going to have a more favorable density altitude for our aircraft as we fly out of Aspen. I do have that time slider down there. Combining those things together, again, I know that I'm not going to be in MVFR, and I have more favorable altitudes. So we can pick a time where we're not going to have to worry quite as much. Here we are at 8,800 feet on the density altitude, still pretty high, but a lot better than 2,000 feet higher there at about 10,800. And if I go back to my airport's details, I can compare that with my runway info. So I can use the daily weather forecasts and the runway to get a better picture of what our takeoff's going to look like. So I have all of that simply by tapping on our airport icon inside of ForeFlight. I've looked at the daily weather, the density altitude for 10 days out. I can see all of my flight categories, and then I can take that information and relate it back to my runway and understand how my takeoff is going to be impacted. I can see details about my runway as well. So I've got a little bit of a slope here, about 2 degrees. Helps me understand, is there a particular direction that I'm going to take off and land into this airport? What kind of, lighting, what kind of systems do I have on that runway as well? You'll notice that I only have PAPIs on one direction into Aspen. If If anybody's here familiar with that airport, it's not really an airport you go both directions into. There's one way you land into that runway. So there's only one PAPI at the airport. It's the only way you're going in. Who here knows that send to button, that little square with an up arrow in it? That is one of the best things inside of ForeFlight. If you see that somewhere, that is a clue that you can visualize what you're looking at in ForeFlight in a different way. I recommend if you're going to play around with anything in ForeFlight, that's one of the best ones to play around with. Understand how you can visualize these things differently. So I'm going to hit that send to button. And I'm going to take this route that I've been planning from Aspen, and I'm going to send it to our flights tab. This is our form-based planner. This is where most of us are going to get our briefings, our official weather briefings for that flight. This is where we file our flight from this tab as well. And if I'm on a performance plan, I have an extra little button there next to my departure and my destination airports. And it's going to say takeoff and landing. ForeFlight can go through and using the interpolated data out of my POH, calculate out all of my takeoff and climb performance for my aircraft. Anything that is in blue on the right-hand side over here, I can alter. So I can tap on dry, paved, and maybe I have different runway conditions. Maybe I want to take off out of wet grass, probably not out of this airport, but my aircraft has that in the POH. And so therefore, ForeFlight can adjust my takeoff calculations based off of that. And when I put in all of my data, I get all of my information lifted in here. So I've got liftoff speed, ground speed, 50-foot speed. One of the ones that I really like to highlight in here, takeoff climb speed, takeoff climb gradient in feet per nautical mile, calculated directly out there for me. Why is that feet per nautical mile so valuable for me to have as I'm going out of a terrained airport like this? Because if I go back to my airport and look under departures, there we go, a little slow today. I can look at my takeoff mins and see that I have a lot of terrain. In fact, I have a published obstacle departure procedure out of this airport. I can pull up that departure procedure here, again on that airport departures tab. And near the bottom, I have my required takeoff minimums for that procedure, calculated in feet per nautical mile. We don't always know how fast my airplane is going across the ground, so I calculate out what does my actual climb gradient need to be, not in feet per minute, but in feet per nautical mile. So by taking that calculated takeoff climb gradient and comparing it over to the departure procedures that I have here, I can know that I have the required climb gradient to not run into terrain as I depart this airport. Very handy tool. Again, I'm not familiar with that terrain. Now I know that I've got the performance required. We can make it out of that airfield. I didn't have to do any math. I didn't have to break out the POH. ForeFlight handled all of that for me. So we managed to get out of the airport there just fine. Went through most of our flight, fairly uneventful. And here we are heading into Colorado Springs. They're going to give me the visual. It's a nice fair weather day on an IFR flight plan. I don't really want to shoot an approach. But I can go through and hit the procedures button up in the upper right-hand corner of the flight plan drawer. Have that flight plan open. And then I can see all of the available procedures in and out of that airport. So I've got my departure procedures out of Aspen. I've got my arrivals into Colorado Springs. And I've got my approaches into Colorado Springs. So when I tap on that, I'm going to use my current METAR brought into the airplane using my ADS-B in weather and comparing that to all of the runways to let me know what runway has the best weather at it. Notice I've also got a bunch of red badges on here. This is one of the ways that ForeFlight is helping to keep you safe. We are going to go through and parse all of the NOTAMs for an airport and then relate it to what that NOTAM impacts. So here out of Colorado Springs, I've got a whole bunch of NOTAMs for closed runways. So I see that right here in the procedures view that those runways are closed. So I'm not going to request them. I'm not going to, Tower's not going to ask, oh, did you get a briefing before we went on this flight? Because I already know that those runways are closed. I'm not going to ask for them. When I do, I'm going to go ahead and see all of the ways that I can enter into that visual. And again, the weather is going to start telling me what the best side is, what my best entry is. ForeFlight's going to start doing a lot of that for me by relating things like the weather back into my approach planning. Once I select what I want, I can add that to my route. And now I've got my 45 to base for my visual into Colorado Springs, easy as can be. There we go, there's my route. If I'm on an autopilot and I can push to my panel, good. So it's a nice easy approach. I went a little long, high airport here. Not gonna burn the brakes too badly. And now I want to get from my current location over on the side of our runway over to one of our FBOs over on the other right-hand side. I've never been to this airport before. I need to figure out which of these FBOs I even want to go to. So I'm going to tap on my airport icon right here in the middle and bring up that same details drawer we looked at earlier. Now I'm going to tap on the FBOs button along the top in that drawer and see all of the FBOs that are available to me at that airport, including their current fuel price. At ForeFlight, we have a data operations team. They're responsible for building and testing all of the data updates you get every 28 days to keep you legal in your airplane. One of the other things that they do is call hundreds of FBOs and ask for the updated fuel price every single day, and keep that updated fuel price right here inside of ForeFlight. If you ever get somewhere that doesn't have, that the fuel price isn't correct on there, that they've changed it out from under us, there is an update fuel button in the FBO's view that you can take a look at. You can send us a report that we need to call them. Well, I've got Qatar Aviation here. Looks like a good FBO for me to go into. I can pull up more details for them. I can see their fuel price. I can see their fuel schedule. I can look up their fees from our partnership with AOPA to see if they have any particularly high ramp or GPU fees that I might need. I can call them. I can get comments from other pilots that have flown in and out of that FBO. Make sure that that's going to work for us. And then a brand new feature, so new it's actually in beta in ForeFlight right now for performance customers. This is the first feature in what we're calling ForeFlight Labs. ForeFlight Labs is a way for us to send out features that we need to let bake in the real world in there. So this is an opt-in beta available on those performance tabs under your accounts view. So if you go more accounts and scroll down, if you're on that plan, you can see ForeFlight Labs taxi routes, and you can opt in to test that beta for us. I'm gonna hit taxi routes, and now I have a new route advisor that pops up. And it looks like I've got a keyboard along the very top, but that keyboard doesn't have things like a regular keyboard does. It's got places on this airport. So I can tap on the FBO that I wanted to go to. So we wanted to go to Qatar Aviation. And ForeFlight's going to automatically plan out a route for me from my current location through the entire airport over to the FBO that I want to go to. Notice how my keyboard changed a bit though. I can put in hold shorts. I can put in crosses if I'm cleared to cross a runway or anything like that. And then I have a series of buttons up here that match my taxiways along the airport. Now, this initial route, this is not what I've been cleared for. This is just ForeFlight telling me what my actual, what the most efficient route that I might be able to take to the FBO is. But we set up the keyboard so that it can be typed in the same way that ATC is going to read you your clearance. So we're going to go to Qatar Aviation via Echo 2, Echo, Golf. We're going to hold short, runway 17 right, Alpha 4. And that's my taxiway clearance. So that's my actual taxi clearance that ATC is going to give me as we taxi along. Notice when I put in that hold short on our runway, my taxi route turned red, letting me know that I have not yet been cleared to cross that runway. So I'm not going to pass it until I've heard back from ATC that I can in fact cross the runway. And then when I hit close, it's going to take that same taxi route and load it up onto my aeronautical map. So I have that ready to go. I can watch my little airplane dot fly right along that taxiway route. If I look at my taxi diagram inside of ForeFlight, I'll see the exact same thing. I'll see my full route displayed onto that airport diagram right here at Colorado Springs. So for an airport I've never been to, couldn't be a whole lot easier to get around and navigate over to my FBO. Let's move on to our next scenario. Let's enter a busy, uncontrolled field here. So I think a lot of us have done that. Hopefully, if it's real busy, they've got a control tower, but occasionally, control towers like to close on us. So we're here in South Florida, flying in, and tower's closed on me. We're at night, flying in, and I tune in my, my CTAF, and I got a lot of traffic flying around. I'm hearing a lot of radio chatter. So the first thing I'm gonna do is in the layer selector in the upper left-hand corner of the map, I'm gonna turn on the traffic layer in there. And that's going to allow me to see all of the airplanes flying around in the airspace with me. This is ADS-B in through our Sentry or any other ADS-B in device we have in our airplane. And I can watch as these airplanes fly around the airport. Makes it very easy for me to see where traffic is. I can add this to my scan. So I can say, oh, I know I need to look for an airplane. You know, ATC is telling me that I have an airplane nearby. It's, you know, off to my 1 o'clock. I can see exactly how far they are, and I can see the distance. Makes it a lot easier for me to scan for that traffic. I'm not spending all day doing our nice vertical scans like we were all taught that very first year in there. If I tap on my airport diagram, or my airport symbol there, I can see all of my frequencies for things. One of the nice things I like in here is we include the tower hours in there. So before you actually fly into this airport, you can see that the tower is going to be closed. And then at the very top up there, I have the ability to view this airport in 3D, bringing that traffic into 3D as I look around that airport. So I've tapped on an airplane here, and I can watch them fly around into the airport. I can watch an airplane make an approach or see what type of traffic pattern they fly before I get there. So I know what runway's in use. I know what direction people are flying around. I have an understanding of how they're entering the traffic pattern or how they're flying around that airport before I even get there fully in 3D. Now we looked at that procedures tab earlier when we were flying the visual, but there's another option in there that I can use that can help us fly into this VFR traffic pattern, and that is the traffic pattern option. When I select that, once again, I take my current METAR and highlight which runway is going to work out best for us. So I get my little best winds flag in there. I can select it and see all of the ways that I can enter in and out of this airport. So I can select my cross midfield teardrop entry. I've drawn all of that out. And when I add that to route, I now have that entirely laid out on the map. What I like about this is because I'm combining my traffic and my teardrop entry, I can see how that traffic is going to impact my entry into the airport. I can see what altitudes they are as I overfly the field. Make sure that while I'm on altitude, everybody else is on altitude too. And I don't need to worry about them as I cross over midfield. As I fly in, I want to be able to report to this traffic when I'm going to be entering the traffic pattern. Now, I may be in an aircraft that is going to cruise at 80 knots. I may be in an aircraft that's going to be entering this traffic pattern at 160 knots. Telling somebody that I'm 10 miles out isn't always as useful. It's great for reporting my position, but it doesn't do a whole lot to let them know how we need to schedule around each other so that we can play nice in the traffic pattern. So in the upper corner, or the upper bar up there, I'm gonna hit the settings gear, and I'm gonna scroll down in our map settings and turn on distance rings. When I turn that on, I now have these rings out in front of my aircraft at certain distances. So I've got 2 miles, 4 miles, I think we've got 10 miles off on the other side over there. And I also have a little green caret along those routes, this little guy right over there, and that's my ground course, letting me know exactly where I'm going to be at that time. Very handy tool. I use this a lot flying around in my route because I constantly have distance told to me as we're going through. But there's another way that we can look at this. We can use this tool in a different way. I can either tap on the actual distances there, the 2 and 4 logos, or I can go to More, Settings, and search for Distance Ring Styles, and then select in the through the other options here, select any of the time options. And when I do that, my rings no longer show me 2 miles and 4 miles. They now show me 5 minutes, 10 minutes as we come through. So when I'm now reporting to traffic, as I'm entering the traffic pattern, I can tell them that I will be entering the midfield downwind in 10 minutes. Well, if they're going through and doing practice laps around there, and they know that they're a couple, 4 or 5 minutes every lap, they know how long it's going to be before they need to worry about traffic. They can either extend on downwind, or they can, cut a short approach in there real quick, make a couple extra laps. And that way, I don't have to fly a 360 to space out, and they don't have to fly a 360 to space out. We can sort of play nice together and time all of that approach out. I can also see that exact same information with my track vector. I like this one as well. So instead of having the rings, I just have a line that goes out in front of the airplane. And that also can be moved through track vector length. I can also move that to time or length. And I can combine the two. So if I want one of them to be on distance and one of them to be on time, I can use those independently. So I have both pieces of information as we fly along. So I looked at the airport map here in 3D, but we also have a new night option along the bottom there, where I can preview the accurate runway and approach lighting at this airport at nighttime as we fly along. So I can preview exactly what my approach systems look like. My PAPI and VASI are rendered correctly based on the angle that I am looking at the runway. So I can actually pan my view down and look at what that runway is going to look like at my glide slope angle as I go through. This is very handy if you're flying, again, into an unfamiliar airport. Maybe it's very wide. Maybe it's very narrow or short. All of the things that we learned about as illusions flying into night runways. I can preview that accurately before I actually fly there. Makes it so much safer. I don't have to, worry about that illusion as I come in. Am I going to be too high? Am I going to be too low? It's a little hard to see in here on the daytime, but I have these red and white dots in the background as well. Those are accurately depicted towers and obstacles using their correct lighting at night. So as you read in about your towers and obstacles, they'll tell you if it's a steady red, flashing white, anything like that. We've brought that database from the FAA into our 3D view, and so you can actually preview what those obstacles look like accurately. I really like this because if I understand what the obstacles look like before I fly into the airport, is that a nav or is that a tower? Am I seeing an airplane flying around, or is that like a static tower in there? I can know that I have all of those around me. It helps me helps me be situationally aware before I ever make it to the field. In that same traffic layer that we looked at, I still pick up targets on the ground. If you've got an ADS-B receiver and you've been looking at it here at Oshkosh, you have definitely seen a lot of ground targets. There's a lot of people getting ADS-B, new ADS-B products into their airplanes here at Oshkosh. And so as I make my approach, I can see the airplane that's holding short of the runway there. I know their tail number. I can call them up on the radio and tell them, yeah, we're on short final. We'll be out of your way in just a second here. I can also see all of the airplanes that are taxiing around. So because I don't have an active ground controller, I can be my own ground controller and make sure that I don't wind up on the same taxiway as another airplane as we go around at night, where we may not be able to see each other very well. And I can combine that with the taxi advisor that we looked at earlier, and I have everything that I need to safely navigate around an airport without having an active controller to help me out. Okay, scenario 3 here. Let's look at a diversion around weather. We're in Wisconsin in the summer, the Midwest. We got to see the other day that sometimes weather's a little more dynamic around here than it's not always quite as predictable. So we're going to be on a cloudy flight, IFR. We're going to be heading up to Grand Rapids, Michigan as we go through. Now I'm flying around and the clouds are starting to look a little puffy, getting a little popcorn going around, and it's the summertime. And I'm a little worried that we might be getting ourselves into a line of storms here. So using my ADS-B, I'm going to turn on my traffic layer and select composite and bring up radar that I can use in flight. And sure enough, it looks like on the other side of that line of clouds, I've got some weather I probably don't want to be flying through in here. I can see the storm tracks. I can see that the cell tops. If you ever see the storm tracks here, those are those lines heading out of a storm. Each dot is 20 minutes. So the center of the cell, and then 20, 40, and 60 minutes out. So you can plan out how fast moving that cell is. I also have some black text in there, and those are echo tops in there. So not necessarily the top of the cloud, but the top of the return in the echo in there. And I can see that I'm up at 36,000 feet. These are not small, nothing thunderstorms. These are getting up there. We probably don't want to do too much inside of these storms. Now I can animate that layer and see exactly what I'm looking at here. One of these. There we go. So I can watch how that's going to be approaching me. I can see how that cell is moving around. And I can combine that with the traffic layer that we've been looking at to understand, are other people making it through this storm cell? Is there a way that I can maybe pick my way through? One of the things to always remember with ADS-B radar, this is strategic, not tactical. These are not onboard radar sweeping the clouds and letting you know the to the second location of all of those returns. There is a little bit of a delay in here, so you want to use this strategically. You're not going to go through and pick your way exactly through those cells. And we can see that when we tap on that traffic target, and we can see that this is Republic Airlines up at 22,000 feet. I don't think that our 182 is going to follow Republic up at that altitude super well. They probably do have onboard radar. So I'm going to want to go ahead and just avoid this storm system entirely, again, strategically. What's helpful about having this on board is, do I want to go north or do I want to go south? Well, looking at our trend line and animating that radar layer, it looks like it's kind of going off to the east a little bit more. So if I divert north, I may get caught in the side of that. I may be trying to outrun that storm. But if I divert south here, then I'm going to be chasing that storm as I come back on the other side. That storm's going to move out of the way for me. Very handy to have that. I can make those decisions in real time in the airplane. So let's go ahead and move ourselves around. I'm going to press and hold on my route line, and I'm going to just drag it entirely out of the storm's path there. So I don't even have to worry about it. And when I lift my finger up, I'm going to get a list of all of the waypoints that I have available in that area. And I can just select whatever the closest one is, and now I've got a nice dog leg in my route here. Now, why is it so nice to pick a waypoint like that? Well, if I'm trying to work with ATC to get myself through, instead of saying, hey, can we get 5 degrees left? Nah, that's not really it. Can we get 5 more degrees left? Okay, can we get 10 left? We'll just keep trying to work our way around there. I now have a waypoint. Hey, can we get direct URID? Yeah, you're good. We'll go on route from there. So I've got a waypoint. ATC knows exactly where I'm trying to go. I've got a route that I can direct to in there. I don't have to keep asking for vectors. I just now modify my flight plan and I can continue on with my own navigation. If I select that waypoint, so I'm just going to tap on my waypoint that I added there, I now have a direct to in that details drawer that slides out. So I can press that. And I can remove my departure airport and give myself a direct to waypoint and bring right across. I can open up my flight plan drawer and I can tap on the route bubble, that little thing that tells me what the waypoint is. I have a lot of options in there. One of those is direct to along the top. Another way that I can direct to a waypoint. I can go to the nav log. I like to have this open while I'm flying around so I can see my leg lengths and everything like that. I can open the nav log up. I can select the arrow that points towards the waypoint I want to fly to, and it will tell me that I can change my plan and go direct to our waypoint. So those are 3 new ways that I can go through and direct to that point. So if I need to modify my flight plan, those are easy ways. I like that last one. I really like for corner cuts on SIDS and stars. You get everything set up. ATC's like, forget 90% of it, just go direct to this waypoint. I like the that nav log arrow that points in that one. That's one of my, I don't need to find that on the map. I can just read it in the nav log. And because I have a very nice airplane, maybe with a 750 and a Garmin flight stream and an autopilot included in there, I'll have that little airplane with what looks like little Wi-Fi symbols coming out of there. That's the connected cockpit symbol. So I can tap that button and I can push or pull my flight plan from ForeFlight directly into my Garmin navigator, directly into my Avidyne or my Dyne-in navigator in there. So that reroute that I just made around weather, instead of like planning it out, okay, now I gotta figure out how I wanna put that into my navigator, ForeFlight's gonna send that automatically for me. Now, notice I have a couple of other options here. I can also load from panel. If I made that change in my panel and I want to bring it down to ForeFlight, I can pull that flight plan straight down. I can also have auto receive from panel. So any update that I make in my panel, I can then push or have pulled directly down into ForeFlight there. This is part of our Connect program where we're able to connect into a whole host of installed avionics in your airplane. Come by the booth. We've got a whole guide in there of exactly what we connect to. So if you're here shopping for avionics, and you want ForeFlight to be able to push in and do all of this, stop by the booth first, get that buying guide, and know exactly what you're going to be able to connect into. Okay, who's instrument rated? It's a nice, it's a healthy percentage. Single pilot, IFR, something's gonna go wrong, right? What if it's nighttime? Vacuum system's gonna go out. Something. So single pilot, IFR approach in, and why not? Let's just come into Oshkosh here. Let's fly a nice approach in. So I'm gonna open up my plates into Oshkosh, and I'm gonna look at my ILS localizer 3.6. Fly in, big runway. We'll come in a little bit before the show. Should be fun. But I look at the top up there, and what do I have? A huge note section in here. They really have a lot of notes on this approach. And what is it telling me to do? If I'm not able to get the Whitman field altimeter setting, I need to go through and get the Fond du Lac altimeter setting and start doing a whole lot of math in here. I need to figure out what category I am. Then I need to add to my DA or my MDH. I need to add to my visibility as I go through. So I've got to start figuring out all of this stuff. And I wasn't planning on using the Fond du Lac altimeter setting anyways. I was, on approach, getting ready to call into the ATIS here at Oshkosh, and I wasn't able to get it. So now I got to think on my feet and do all of this math in there. And that's only if all of the runway systems are working correctly. If they're not, I need to open the Digital Terminal Procedures Supplement document from the FAA, which lives in the FAA drive in the documents catalog, and I need to go through and do more math, conveniently reported mostly in RVR, so it's even easier for me to go through and add it in there, and add that to the minimums and the visibilities for my approach to understand when we're actually going to be able to fly down. Now, if I am a Jefferson subscriber and I'm looking at Jefferson Plates, this is mostly done for me. It's one of the really nice things about Jefferson Plates, why people like flying around with them, is because this is what the minimum section on a jet plate looks like. All of that's done for me. They've got, a different grid that I can go down and look at all of that. Now, a couple of years ago, we were bought by Boeing. Jefferson is also owned by Boeing. So we have a fairly close relationship with them now. Well, they make these charts and they have all of the data on these approaches. So because of that partnership, ForeFlight's able to do something a little new here. And I really like it. So we'll go into our procedures for our airport and select the approach that I want to fly. And now when I select how I want to enter this approach, so we'll make it easy. We'll do vectors to final. On the performance plan there, ForeFlight's going to have a whole lot of new info that loads up underneath those waypoints for me for my initial approach fixes. I can go through and select the category aircraft that I am. I like that we include the speeds there. So if I ever forget actually what category we're flying, I've got all of that ready to go. I can select what the runway conditions look like. So if everything's on, great. If my approach lighting system or the rail is out, I can select those as well and have those values automatically added to the minimum for me. I can see all of the different types of approaches that I can make as I fly in. And notice, I've got two ILSs at the top there. One of them with the notes on it, and then one of them that says with KFLD altimeter, with the Fond du Lac altimeter setting. So I can select the one that works for me, and now I get a little magenta box right there on my approach plate. I can add that to route, and I now see the actual altitudes for all of the fixes along my route, along my approach, displayed there on my approach plate, and I see the minimums calculated for my aircraft and the conditions at the runway so that I have that just displayed directly onto my approach plate. So I no longer need to go through and look at that minimum section as we go through. All that's done for me. I know what my minimum is. And if I view that in my flight plan drawer and look at the 3D button, I can see all of that same information displayed in 3D. So I can brief my approach and understand exactly what is the distance and the altitude change between those waypoints as I fly down. Are we going to need to really cut power, set in a heavy descent rate before we fly? Or are we able to just set ourselves up on a nice, smooth, clean descent to get between all of those points? It's a lot easier when I have both the profile view and the plan view built in to a single 3D view. Now, as we're flying along, I also have a series of instruments I can use to make this even easier, keep me ahead of the airplane, keep me relaxed and knowing that we're on course. I'm going to hit the little speedometer looking icon along the top there and bring up our instrument panel along the bottom of the maps page. Now I can tap on any of these instruments and change them to other things. There's a whole series of different instruments I can view along the bottom of my maps tab. A lot of this is driven by having a good GPS signal. So like the Century's WASP GPS is going to make this all the more accurate. If I have like just the GPS chip built into the iPad, I still get all of this information. So it's really handy to have as I go along. So I can go through and tap on that. And maybe instead of my current coordinates, I want something like the course that I want to fly to my next waypoint. So I know what course I need. Maybe I want my cross-track error. I want to understand what my lateral distance is between my current position and the desired course that I want to fly. So I can see my cross-track error down there is 0.9 of a mile off to the right. That's where my course lies. So I can put in a nice smooth intercept angle and get myself back on course using that. I know that I don't need to make any kind of crazy adjustment. You can use things like that track vector that we looked at earlier and actually use that to line up where your intercept is on a waypoint. So you make sure that you intercept your course before the waypoint on your approach that you want to be able to be on. Okay, got a new altimeter setting. We're flying down. we still need to aviate the airplane. We still need to go through and make sure that we are, correctly configured, we're correctly flying through our approach. And that's going to include our descent checklist. And luckily that is built directly inside of ForeFlight here for me. So I can go to my checklist tab and I can see my descent checklist. Now, single pilot IFR is a pretty heavy workload. It'd be really nice if I had somebody to go through and help me fly through my checklist. So we'll look at our descent, and then we can press the speak button along the bottom of the checklist here. And if I've connected my headset via Bluetooth to my iPad, when I press that button, ForeFlight's actually going to start reading out all of those checklist items to me, call and response style. So I can go through and make sure that my power is set, make sure that I enrich my mixture, make sure that my cowl flaps are closed. So I don't need to be heads down trying to read the checklist. I can be heads up, flying the airplane and going through each of those items because ForeFlight's going to read all of that to me. One little tip here that I like, you can modify these checklists. So you can go through and put specific items for your operation in there. Very handy. As I'm flying along, I'm going to tap on the airport, or Oshkosh, and bring up that airport diagram, or the airport details drawer. Because this is a drawer now, and not an overlay onto the map, I can leave this up. And I have all of my frequencies. So now they're on my approach. Not only do I have the altitudes and the minimums that I need for this approach, but I have all of the frequencies that I need to fly into this airport. So I don't need to be zoomed out where I can see everything about this approach plate. I can be zoomed in to the plan view where I want to see all of that lateral information. I've cut off the frequency bar on the top of the plate, but it doesn't matter. I've got all of that information over there on the right-hand side using that details drawer. Now ATC is going to come through and they're going to tell me that I need a new vector as we get our vectors on the final. So I'm going to hit the pencil icon on the left-hand side of the map over here and annotate the map as we fly through. I like to go through and write any vectors, any instructions that I get from ATC on the map where ATC gave them to me. These annotations on the maps page are geolocated, so they will stay in the area that I wrote them. So if I pan and zoom around, that will stay right on the map where I drew it. It's the same thing as like drawing on a paper chart right where you wanted to go through. So I've got my new altitude and my vector right where I want it. And as I continue to fly along, when they give me a new vector, I can write that where I wanted to write that one as well. So it keeps me contextualized into, oh no, that vector was 20 minutes ago. That's not our current one. This is our current vector, our current clearance as we fly along. Occasionally we get people who write in and say, hey, I've got all this red written all over my map and I have no idea how it got there. Happens sometimes. You'll notice that when I have that annotation that annotation tool up, I now have a bar along the very top. Over on the right-hand side, clear. And then I can delete all the annotations off of my map. So if you're in that situation, just go ahead and hit the clear button there. You can get rid of all the annotation. And then I can combine this with synthetic vision. I've got my Sentry, I've got my AHARS giving me pitch and bank information built into that device. I open that up by hitting what looks like the little glass cockpit item along the top. And now I've got a representation of what's outside the airplane with pitch and bank information and my approach plate laid right next to each other. So when I go, if I need to look at something on the plate or look at something on the map, and I look down onto my knee, I don't lose what my attitude looks like right now. I have that information up. I can make sure that I'm not doing the classic instrument student where you drop a pin and then we go into a little bit of a dive there. I've got that right where I want it. I can zoom in and see my runway. Make sure we're lined up on the right runway. Make sure I've got all the frequencies tuned in exactly how I need them. Very handy situational awareness tool. Okay, last scenario. Let's put all of this to the test. We're going to fly around. We're going to have a little bit of an in-flight emergency. We've got to be prepared for it. We've got to be ready. So we're doing a little East Coast flying. as we go along here. Weather seems marginal through some of this stuff. We got a little bit of weather to work around. Whenever I'm on a good cross country, I like to have a little tool that lets me know exactly what airports are going to be viable for me in the case of a power off failure. So I'm going to hit that gear icon along the top and slide down until I see Glide Advisor. Glide Advisor uses your current GPS location and altitude, your speed, the winds and law forecast, and our high-resolution terrain map to give you a representation of where you can glide the aircraft in an engine failure incident. I can configure that right underneath, so I make sure I've got my correct glide speed and I've got my correct glide ratio, things I can find out of the POH. And when I have that on, I now have this ring drawn around the airplane. And I can understand where we're going to be able to take this airplane if suddenly the engine quits on us. Remember when that first, private pilot cross country, your instructor was like, okay, well, where would you land now? Where would you land now? Where would you land now? This is going to help you make that calculation. You can go out there and you can see all of the airports or where you don't want to fly if you've got a lot of terrain around you as well. So when something happens, we maybe hear a loud pop from the front. Suddenly the airplane's not flying right. I know exactly where we're going to be able to divert to. So what's the first thing you do in an emergency? Engine out operations here. Yeah, you're gonna fly the airplane. You're gonna pitch for glide. There we go. You're gonna pitch for glide speed in there. Now, because I got that glide ring on, I know what that is. So in that panic moment, right when I've now just suddenly forgotten the thing that I've known for years, I have it written right down there in the corner. I have that glide speed. I'm gonna go over to my checklist and I'm gonna hit the little emergency icon along the top. It's going to take me to my emergency select section where I can then select the engine failure and use checklist speak to have that read out to me. So I can slow down. I can go through and be deliberate about changing things in that situation. I don't want to just be flipping switches. I want to deliberately go through my checklist and give myself the best chance of getting my engine back on. Maybe we restore a little bit of power here. Maybe we get a little bit back, but it's running pretty rough. Something's definitely not right. We are going to want to get on the ground as soon as we can. I'm going to tap on one of my nearby airports, and now that I have that drawer again, I can see Boston approach, Boston departure. Let's get some ATC frequencies. Who can I start talking to about a diversion? Who can I start, asking for help? I can go through into my layer selector here and turn on flights category. And now I have dots on all of my airports giving me the flight condition information. So it looks like I've got some red, some pink, and some green on there. And I can tap on each of those and immediately see what my flight conditions are. So it looks like in New Bedford, we're pretty hard IFR. If we go up to Taunton, it's even worse. We probably don't want to go to either of those when we've got Plymouth looking VFR, looking nice. I might be able to get in there without too much trouble. I can look at the runways there. I don't know anything about this airport, so I'm going to make sure that I can line up on a particular runway. So I can tap the runways button and see what the airport configuration looks like. What runways are going to line up for me? Do they have enough length to get in? What are the dimensions of those runways? I can then take two fingers and tap it onto the map, and I can get my ruler tool brought up. And then I can combine that ruler with my profile view, and I can see the terrain and obstacles underneath my ruler as I go through. Now, East Coast, not known for its heavy mountains or anything like that, but there's some pretty tall obstacles over there. By bringing this up and taking a look at it in profile view, on the right-hand side up there, I see my highest point. So I already know that if I were to divert, I don't have any obstacles in there. I didn't need to look up anything else. I don't have a radio tower that's going to come out and surprise me or anything like that. I've now cleared that route for those obstacles. A couple of other things I like on the ruler here. You'll notice that it gives me a heading to the other side of that ruler. It gives me distance and fuel burn and time. So right away, if I'm in a situation where I need to start going towards that airport, I now have that magnetic heading. Just going to turn the airplane. I'm not going to worry about my course yet. We're going to get headed towards the airport that we need to go to. Airport looks like it'll work out for us. So I already have that drawer open on the right-hand side. I can just hit direct to. And now I've cleared out the rest of my route, and I have my direct to line brought across. Maybe I can then push that to my panel, start having that brought across into my avionics. Now, it's pretty VFR, but maybe I've got a little bit of something I'm gonna need to go through. I can bring up my approach plate and start planning out what it's going to look like to fly an approach into this airport. I can select, again, the minimums calculated for me and brought directly across onto my approach. So I've not had time to go through and do my nice, okay, we're gonna fly the ILS to runway 6 at Bedford International Airport. You know, weather today, here's our frequencies. I can bring that right onto the plate in the event of an emergency, and I'm not trying to interpret any of the rest of the information there. I've just got that done. I'm gonna turn on a bunch of other situational awareness tools. I'm not I've not briefed this flight. I don't know anything about what's between me and that airport. But if I go into my layer selector and start turning things on, like my radar, my traffic, my TFRs, and that flight categories we looked at, you can see how we can start to layer in all of these additional tools. So I know that there's no storm systems that I'm gonna have to worry about in there. I know how traffic is entering that airport. I know that there's not a TFR that even in an emergency, I'm probably gonna get asked about. That's not, the last thing you want is in an emergency to be like, hey, you know about that TFR, right? I can bring that up. I can have that briefed in that moment. And then I can go through and I can see synthetic vision showing me my runway and my airport directly out in front. I have that reassurance, what's out in front of the airplane there. I know that there's no obstacles. I know that there's no terrain. I can see traffic as it flies through in synthetic vision. So I know that I'm clear through all of that as I fly along. I can see my approach plate here in the middle with my plan details and where my aircraft is along that route. And then by opening up that details drawer, I got my frequencies. I've got all of my airport information brought along there. So I've now split my screen into 3 different views, all with important information as I fly along in there. So I've got all of the situational awareness I could ever want right there on my iPad as we fly in on an approach we were never planning to fly. Very handy to have. So that's about 60 minutes right there of tools you can use in ForeFlight through those situations. But we could go on for 3 more hours and I wouldn't run out of tips that we could use. So how can I learn more about how to fly with ForeFlight? The owner's manual, your POH for ForeFlight, it's built directly into the app. It's the pilot's guide in the documents catalog. It updates every time we put out a new release. So it's very handy to go through. One of the things I like in the very back of it is a change log. You can see what changes every release of ForeFlight. You can tap on it and be taken directly to the article inside of the pilot's guide that explains that new feature. This middle guy right here. This presentation is recorded. We're recording it right now. We've recorded all of the other presentations we're giving at Oshkosh. We also have hundreds of other full-length webinars or presentations to little 5-minute tooltips on how to use different new features in ForeFlight. They are all for free on our YouTube channel, foreflight.com/videos. You can go through and learn about how to use all of these functionalities inside of ForeFlight. And then we have our newsletter and our blog. Many of you probably got an email recently that said that you are cleared to update your iOS. Every time Apple releases a new version, we tell you to hold off for a minute. Our QA team drops whatever they're doing, and they go through and test all of the functionality with that new version of iOS to ensure that Apple hasn't done something to go through and break what you need in the airplane. And then you get that all clear, letting you know that everything's going to work just fine when you update. And if you can't find any answer through any of that, just reach out right away, team@foreflight.com. Ask the pilot support team, I want to do this in the airplane. I need to know how to fly an approach easier. I need to know how to look up this information. They can give you so many great tips, so much great information about how to fly around, ForeFlight making it easier for you. And like I said, we are over in Hangar C, right past the universities over here. So come stop by, get a preview of any of these tips. Hopefully you've written down some things that sound kind of interesting that you want to learn more about in ForeFlight. So go get a one-on-one demo with them, and they'd be more than happy to walk you through anything. And that is our power users presentation. So we've got just a couple of minutes here for Q&A, so we'll do a few questions.
I've noticed with some of the other vendors, for lack of a better word, when you want to implement a traffic systems, give them a track vector of other than just the point. Are you guys planning on possibly implementing that into something down the road?
So the question is, when I'm looking at traffic on certain other systems and everything like that, I can see the track vector of that traffic as I go through. If you tap on that target, you not only can you see where they've been, but you can see that track vector out ahead of the aircraft. Yeah, you do have to tap on the airplane there. That declutters the map for you as you're looking. So if you want to see where they're going, just tap on that target. You can see all of that through. Is there?
On the takeoff performance part of that, does that include density altitude?
So the question is, when we look at takeoff calculation there, does that include density altitude? So we've gone through and we've interpolated your POH entirely into ForeFlight. So not only does that include density altitude, it includes the temperature and the rest of the weather conditions. It includes the weight of the aircraft that I've put through. It's included the altitude that I'm taking off at. All of that information is used to calculate what your performance information is on the runway. So you've got based on density, altitude, weight of the airplane, everything gets brought across in there and calculated into your takeoff performance. That is the performance in the performance tier there. Yeah, those takeoff calculation numbers.
I didn't see the taxi diagram in my original ForeFlight. You have to spend extra for it?
So we didn't see the taxi route advisor that we looked at. That is in our Performance Plus tiers, and you need to opt into it as well. So you have to be on that performance tier. Now, ForeFlight Labs, this is the first beta that we've put into ForeFlight Labs. It's the first beta that we've put into ForeFlight Labs. So even on like Pro Plus or Basic, keep an eye out for other things that may be coming through in those. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Under the daily for weather, a lot of times on the ceiling it says none. Does that mean no report or no ceiling?
So the question is, when I look at the daily weather report and I see none in for a ceiling there, does that mean that there is no ceiling or that we just don't know what the ceiling is? And I don't actually know the answer to that question. I think somebody over in the Hangar C, though, we'd be able to get you the answer for that one. We're right in the middle of Hangar C in there. It's a very large booth. It's pretty hard to mix. So just walk in, head towards one of the middle aisles. It'll be real fast. You'll see it.